All right, today we're going to go over how our political system works, and that starts with our two-party system. So we have a lot of key terms. You should already have these down, and most of them, there's not any other terms that you have to know within them, or at least none that we aren't going to talk about over the next couple of days. So you have 2 minutes. Get down what you have on the screen. I know you can pause it, but try and stay on time. All right, so as quickly as I can, what we have on the screen, and then additional information that you should take down. So in the United States, we have political parties, namely we have two. And what these political parties do is, the basic function is to help manage elections. So we've already talked about how the Constitution sets up that states are responsible for managing elections. But as for the kind of daily routine when it's an election year, that can fall to the different political parties. Now, this doesn't mean that they maintain the ballots, that they count the votes, but all the little things, a lot of the that's what the political parties do. So what we have up on the screen, which is like they nominate candidates. Louisiana's a little different, and we'll get into that. But almost nationwide, the different parties make sure that you have one or two candidates that you can vote for. They help fund those campaigns to try and get those individuals elected. And when it comes to election day, a lot of local political parties will make sure that people know when the days to vote are coming up. They will make sure that people know how to vote, that they know how to get to their polling place, so on and so forth. That's what we mean by managing those different aspects. So our political parties lie on what's called a political spectrum. So in the United States, we quantify this as liberal versus conservative. So the chart that we have on the screen shows some different categories, but the way to think about it is what we're really looking at is conservative and Democrat when we talk about the two competing ideologies. So the Conservative Party right now in the United States is the Republican Party, or also known as the GOP, and they're represented here on the screen by an elephant. And the Democrats, which are represented by a donkey or a mule, are the current Liberal Party. Now, those political parties can change depending on what's going on in the United States. Back in the mid-1800s, the Republicans were the Liberal Party and the Democrats were the Conservative Party. but over time they have switched positions on the political spectrum into what we have today. So our two-party system allows for different political views, but it does not include, in terms of elected representation, a wide range of views. We're only limited to two parties, and we're going to talk about later on about how those parties determine what they do and what they think. But with the two-party system, this is what allows the United States to have a majority control, whether it's in Congress or even among the different branches of government, meaning that they have 51% or more. So in Congress, whether it's the House or the Senate, if either party controls 51%, they get to have control over setting the agenda, deciding what bills are going to be put forth to become law, so on and so forth. And that's how the two-party system works in the United States. All right, again, 2 minutes. Don't pause it. Just write down as much as you can in 2 minutes, and then you can fill in the rest as I start talking. Okay, so this majority of this slide is talking about political systems in other parts of the world. So outside the United States, in some countries, mainly in Europe, you have what's called a multi-party system. So that's two or more, or in this case would be, let me correct that, three or more parties, anything over two. And so what that's going to allow for is, as we talked about on the previous slide, which is it's going to allow for greater political voice in a society. You will have different parties who represent different ideals among everyone within their country. So, but what this means is small leadership majorities. So what ends up happening is when nobody has a 51% or more, so you might have a political party that's in control, but they only have, say, a 30% majority in their elective body. So in order to make sure that they get up to that 51% so that they can set the agenda and that they can decide what laws they want to consider and pass, they have to work with other political parties, and this is called a coalition. So they might have to make concessions or make compromises with another political party or two or three other political parties in order to work together in order to achieve that majority control. So this can cause a lot of confusion sometimes. And without getting into specific details, in some of these countries what you'll see is that a party that wins a majority but doesn't have that 51%, may not be able to pull together a coalition, and therefore their government can't do anything. So a similar kind of idea that has recently happened in the United States is in the election for the Speaker of the House. If the Republicans couldn't come to a consensus on who should lead the Republican majority, and therefore nothing could get done. Same thing happens if these coalitions can't come together in multi-party systems. Other countries, though, are less democratic, and they have only one political party, meaning that it's only one group of people. They have 100% of control in terms of an elected body, and they set that agenda. And so it's more restrictive than any other political system, because first off, they, as we pointed out, they have complete control, and then it limits the options from what their people can vote for. So they can only vote for somebody who is from that one political party. All other political parties are not allowed to run for election unless there is some monumental change. Now, still here in the United States, we occasionally do get a third party pops up. So every now and then there will be a political movement, and it's not, typically in the history of the United States, they have not been very large movements. Although we have had some change in political parties, and that's where these third parties can kind of come up. So the Democrats have been around. They trace their lineage back to Thomas Jefferson and literally the founding of the country. Whereas the Republicans didn't come around until the 1850s, and they were a small political movement that built enough steam that they could overtake existing political parties back then, like the Whig Party, and the Whig Party had taken over from the Federalist Party, and so on and so forth. Today, where we see this is you might have a political party that is entirely, their entire goal is on climate change and trying to stop climate change. And so any candidate that they put forth is going to be pushing forward a climate change agenda. But it is not something to where we'll see that happen at every level, whether that's in Congress, at the state level, in governor houses across the country. It's usually only in presidential elections. And then where that can cause problems is that it pulls voters away from other candidates. So this has happened in the past, where back in 1914, Teddy Roosevelt runs for election under the Progressive Party, and that takes enough votes away from then President Taft to allow Woodrow Wilson to become elected president. Most recently, this took place in the 2000 election, where a person by the name of Ralph Nader ran as an independent and took some votes away from the candidate running, Al Gore, and this allowed President George W. Bush to win the election through various other means as well. So, but what they can do is that they can start to change conversations that are happening in the United States. So going back to Teddy Roosevelt, by running as a progressive, he was able to bring forth other issues that were being ignored by other politicians, like women's right to vote, trying to end Jim Crow laws in the South, so on and so forth. So third-party candidates, while they are not effective in getting elected, they can be effective in making sure that issues that are normally ignored are brought to light in a national campaign. And that's it for this one.